Here we are, post-gig. Right now what I'm doing, I'm uploading the footage I took last night. I recorded the whole show. What I do is I have to upload it from my phone via the YouTube app because I was having a problem doing it otherwise. So hopefully this works. And then I'll edit it. I have to edit it into song pieces of some kind because certain songs don't pass the copyright test. Like even though it's not Zeppelin playing it, you know, I mean, it recognizes Kashmir as Kashmir, and it recognizes Stairway to Heaven, you know what I mean? You can't put them on YouTube. It blocks it. So I'll figure out what portions I should put on. You know what was funny about the gig yesterday, though? It was tiring, but bizarrely, I rushed everything. I did, and some of the stuff you'll see. Not just the, was I on top of the beat pretty much all the time, but it's like I was going through the motion. Like somebody had said, well, you're just going through the motions in the Arcada video. Actually, in the Arcada, I didn't feel like I was going through the motions. I was pretty comfortable. I was still trying to do the best I could. But just last night, it's not that I was uncomfortable. You know what it is? Well, kind of. You just get so worried that, all right, what else coming up in the arsenal might I drop the ball on? And the stakes are kind of high because, well, hey, it's a Kashmir band, right? I mean, it is a Led Zeppelin tribute band. But I have a YouTube channel like dedicated to Bonham and Zeppelin. If I make stupid mistakes, it sounds stupid. But again, that can happen. Like last week, I was playing rock and roll in Forest Park, and at the end of rock and roll, like, you know, the solo, the dun 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 boom 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 boom. My right stick came, or my left stick came right out of my hand. But last night there were no stick droppings or anything. But like I said, it's just tiring. I got through Moby Dick well, I think, rock and roll well. But again, you know what I realized? For whatever reason, I'm not doing like I used to play stuff like this, like a molar. It's molar-y. It kind of comes, I think, easier to you. See how you're getting like doom da doom da doom. For some reason, in rock and roll lately, I don't know. I did hurt. Somebody brought up a rotator cuff, and I did hurt my rotator cuff like 3 or 4 years ago, and I think that's why it seems to make this. I don't know what it is. So then I find myself just being real choppy, and I think that's why rock and roll is my albatross. So I'm going to post some of these videos. Boy, it's kind of hot down here. And you can see, check this out. I have my 14 by 26 silver sparkle bass drum. It is 6-ply, but it sounds pretty beefy. I'll play in a minute here. Look, and I have my ambers around it. Isn't that kind of cool? What if I start a trend, like ambers on silver? Well, I guess it's kind of cool because it is like, you know, Bonham was said to have a silver sparkle, so maybe at his house he was like, you know, Mick, put my silver sparkle 26 up in my amber toms. It could have happened. All right, so I have no hi-hat here. I just have my trusty Sound Formula 18-inch thin crash. Get ready. Volume spike. Get ready. Here we go. Turn it down a little. So So what I'm working on is this. I'm going to make another dedicated video about Moby Dick live because there's a fascinating thing that Moby Dick does on John Bonham, that John Bonham does on the Moby Dick live, which I used to do, but I never think it sounded right, probably because I wasn't doing the bass drum right. But you'll notice, at least when I do Moby Dick live, with Kashmir anyway, the fact of the matter is I'm kind of nervous. Like, to me, you always sit behind the drums, and maybe other Zeppelin tribute guys could attest to this. Suddenly, when you're like, suddenly what you're playing, even if I think you're kind of doing it right, it sounds thin. It just doesn't sound beefy. So my thing is I tend to totally overplay, like terribly. And then it just really, like, to the uninitiated, it might sound, oh, that sounds kind of good, but it's not really what Bonham was doing. I'm like I'm doing a lot of like flat out in there versus like, now check this out. Now, what Bonham used to do in Moby Dick kind of early on, you see the sort of the genesis of it, and well, at least the progress of it, as you would on like the Epicene era, epoch, epic kind of things. Bonham sometimes early on would keep that the notes between those in a triplet fashion. Okay, so versus. Okay? That's a. Ow! Sorry. One E into 2 E into 3 E into 4 E into. Okay, so you can go 1 E into 2 E into 3 E into 4 E into. Is in the later years. Now just bear in mind. And continue to follow, stand by. Or a triplet. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, okay? But he'd go like this. Hear that? So I sometimes, when I'm doing the New York 1973 one, I'll do some of that in there. I don't have the hi-hat. Hear how sloppy that is. When I'm doing it faster. See, all those right now are being played with poorly executed, just right hands. And this still could be 16th-y, but what Bonham used to do is go. So this sort of motif goes on which is at the basic part of Moby Dick, which Bonham is doing like 79.6%. Well, I'd say 83.5% of the time. Gosh damn it! I gotta get my hi. Let me get my hi-hat up, because it just won't sound right. It just won't sound right. Okay, so here it is, my hi-hat stand. A Pearl 900 series. So hi there. This is a quick intermission. Real fast, let me get my hi-hat cymbal. Ow. My giant beat reissue top and my 1976 15-inch sound-inch bottom. So check this out, though, and I'll make a dedicated video on it or two. But it's really this simple. But the funny thing is, the footage that's so valuable is that Bonham 50% MIDI. There's so much stuff Bonham did that when you see what he actually did, it doesn't seem like it should sound like that. And this is one of them. To me, anyway. Everyone else might be like, what are you talking about? But watch. Son of a fuck. Now what I'm going to do, hang on. I'm going to show you a basic paradigm. Watch this. That's just a right I'm doing there. See, I'm just going. Bonham used to kind of do that, at least at slower tempos, back in like the 1970 Royal Albert Hall. But what he started to do is he would fit in the 16th-y thing. So instead of, he'd go, and you can see that clearly in the Earl's Court footage, the 50%, I'll put the link in the thing below. Speed. Watch him do that. It doesn't, and it even sounds sloppy at points. Like sometimes it sounds like this. It's like. Like it doesn't. It's trying to get. I got some of these little blistery things in my hands. Tux is at the cleaners. But now watch the bass drum. This is what I was getting at before. First off, it's kind of like this. Boom, boom, bum, 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 boom, boom, bum, boom, 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 bum, boom, let me just bring the whole dynamic down. A thing that's extremely important is you're going it's kind of that, except that he puts another one in there. Now check this, hang on, he puts another one in there. I don't mean to talk away from the camera, but check this out. He goes now, do you hear that? That's actually, if you're just doing straight. Like that. For the love of the Christian Science Monitor. Okay. Hear that? So the first one is on a right hand. Left, left, right. So the next two are with your left hand. Now, that lends itself to the Bonham engine. Remember when I say in the Bonham engine, well, what you're really doing, you can also do something else and control, something else which is kind of cool. What you're doing is, again, my right hand hitting at the same time as my left foot, my left hand hitting at the same time as my right hand. My left hand hitting at the same time as my right foot. But so check it out. Well, there they are. Left hand and right foot hitting at the same time. So that's what you have here. I gotta relax. I feel like the act of observing is disturbing the observed. Hang on. Give me a minute here. Smoke them if you got them. Pretend like I'm not here. Just hang on. Here, so. Well, again, so what's happening is right, left. That last bass, remember, it's hitting with the left. You're getting two strokes, though. Watch. So. Hear that? I don't find that instinctively natural. There seems to be, and what happens sometimes when you're working on coordination things, there's actually something in your brain that I think keeps you... What the hell happened to that? That keeps you from doing it right. Because you feel like you're doing something wrong. You don't want to look stupid. It's almost like you have to go real slow and sort of reconcile the fact that it's okay to do that. Not necessarily that you can't do it. Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about certain coordination things. Like it doesn't seem right. But then it sort of does. And you're like, oh, that's what you do. You know, so, watch. So what? Hang on. And that's about 38% of it, because what he does sometimes then is just the Bonham engine with his feet. Hear that? that type of thing, but he alternates between that. Between the, which is like a herda. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right. That's the best way to remember an inverted herda. It is da 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 da. Seriously, hang on, beloved God. Get yourself a CNC drum key. They're magical. Hang on. Maybe that'll. That's an actual ching ring, but I don't have that. I don't have the actual. Hang on. Oh wait, that's why they have those. I'm such a skull. Those are supposed to fit on rods. Huh? Little skinny ones. Yeah, so you kind of get it. Hope they won't fall apart. Watch my left foot. It's just too up and loud. What I'm going to do is just hit the double with my left hand. See, that's something that I really have to practice lining up. What I'm doing is I'm really trying to get that at a real slow tempo. So I'll do the halftime like Bonham does, like 75. Oh boy. So I'm trying to make this just real. This is really how it is. Especially, I'm tired after this gig. Or sometimes I can get this, if I'm really comfortable, get this up almost exactly how Bonham did it. But it doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't sound like it. Do you know? I mean, it sounds like there's so much more like doubles going on, like tons of them. But it really is just this. He does that in there, but with the bass drum going. That's a good one to just practice. You hear that? It's like a little, you know, and now, you know what, I really know why my tuck's at the cleaners and stuff, really, is I'm so used to doing swung paradiddle diddles inverted. See that? Da-da-da-da-da-da, instead of, I find that anathema. So I'm trying to make that sound more comfortable. But that's the key. I'll make a dedicated Moby Dick video on this shortly. But I wanted to mention that. Anyway, the gig went well, by and large. I'm trying to upload it. We'll see what happens. Thanks.